Okay, good evening, everyone, and welcome to our council meeting for March the 21st, our first council meeting of the spring. And with that, I'll just call the meeting to order. First thing this evening, of course, is the adoption of the agenda. I have a recommendation here that the agenda for the March 21st, 2022 regular meeting of council be accepted and passed. Could I get a mover and a seconder for that, please? Moved by Steve. Seconded by Lisa. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Then we'll go through the disclosure of pecuniary interest. I don't have any to declare this evening. Lisa?
No.
Dan?
No.
Sherry?
No.
Steve?
I have none.
Okay, thank you. I understand Councillor O'Neill has a date with the Curling Rock at 8 o'clock, so I know he's anxious to get started, but he's first on the agenda tonight. So welcome, Steve, for your county council update.
Thank you, Mayor Lennox, and good evening, everyone. Mayor Lennox is chair of the County Roads Committee, but I still want to take a little time to talk about a couple of roads issues that I feel have some local interests. At the March Roads Committee meeting, staff recommended that a bylaw be drafted allowing off-road vehicles to be driven on county roads, and that recommendation passed. Also at that meeting, a recommendation was passed setting up 9 community safety zones on county roads. And one of the recommended zones is on Sligo Road in front of Wellington Heights Secondary School. And both of those recommendations will be brought to full county council next week to be voted on. Leaf and yard waste monthly pickup begins in April, runs through the month of November. And this year, October and November, we'll have 2 pickups instead of just 1. 2 pickups in those months are scheduled due to the high volume of material put out for collection. In 2021, it was taking more than the scheduled 1 week to get all the material collected in each area. Leaf and yard waste is collected in 56 designated urban areas countywide. In November of 2021, we started an institutional, commercial, and industrial organic waste pilot program. And that's in addition to our regular weekly residential green bin pickup. And it's scheduled to run through June of 2022. In its first 2 months, 51 tons of food waste was diverted from the landfill, and another 4.5 tons of edible food went to local food security organizations, food banks. And local participants in this pilot project are Mount Forest Foodland, Arthur Foodland, and 2 county housing units in Arthur on Frederick Street and Edward Street. Currently, the program is mostly set up along the Highway 6 corridor and includes participants from the city of Guelph. The program's gotten off to a great start and will hopefully continue and expand. There's no cost to participate in the pilot program. A notice of motion was approved by County Council in February asking staff to look into the possibility of having automated speed enforcement set up in community safety zones on county roads. Speeding on county roads that run through some of our hamlets is certainly one of the more common complaints I receive from residents. The OPP used Black Cat speed monitoring devices to check areas of concern and to see if extra enforcement is needed in those areas. These areas of concern are identified through resident complaints or places that officers are aware of problems. As an example, in Alma on County Road 17, which is the east-west route through Alma, and County Road 7, the north-south route, monitoring there shows 85% of the traffic passing through at over 65 kilometers an hour in a 50-kilometer zone. The Black Cat data helps the OPP concentrate enforcement in areas that are shown to have a high number of speeders. Alma is not one of the 9 community safety zones either. In March, County Council meetings went back to in person, and as of April 1st, masks will not be required to attend the meetings. And that's all I've got. And if you've got questions, I'll try and give you answers. And I certainly didn't want to take away from our roads chair, but I think those 2 items are probably fairly important to the residents of Wellington North. The speed zone in front of the high school and ATVs on county roads, I know, was a concern our residents have had, and a lot of them wanted that. So hopefully we can get through there with our next meeting at County Council. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Steve. Questions? The other Steve, Councillor McCabe.
Thank you, Mayor, and through you, and thanks for that, Councillor O'Neill. Just with regards to the ATV being ATVs and off-road vehicles being allowed on county roads, if it does get through and passed, when would that be enacted? Like, when would be the implementation date?
Maybe the chair of roads knows, but probably not either. I believe they expect it to be in the early part of the first half of 2022.
Okay. All right. Thanks. It's good to hear.
We don't have a firm date yet, Councillor McCabe, but I would agree with Councillor O'Neill's assessment. Any other questions for Steve? Okay, not seeing too many, so thanks, Steve. And we got you away in time that you can
Lots
even
of time.
get to the curling club early.
Yep, doesn't take that long to walk.
Good game.
That curling excuse got him out of here early.
Thanks, Steve.
Works every time.
Okay. Next, we have a Committee of Adjustment meeting this evening, so we'll recess our regular council meeting to attend to that. And I have a recommendation here that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Wellington North recess the March 21st, 2022 regular meeting of Council for the purpose of holding a public meeting under the Planning Act for Richard and Grace Gingrich, a minor variance. Can I get a mover and a seconder for that, please? Moved by Sherry, seconded by Dan. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. So we are recessed from our council meeting, and we'll switch over to the Committee of Adjustment meeting, and I'll call the Committee of Adjustment meeting to order, and we'll go through the disclosure of pecuniary interest routine again for this meeting. I have none to declare. Councillor McCabe?
I have none, Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Burke?
No.
Councillor Yake?
Oh.
And Councillor Hearn?
No.
Okay, thank you. First item is the minutes of the previous Committee of Adjustment meeting from February 22nd. And the recommendation is that the Committee of Adjustment meeting minutes of February 22nd, 2022, application A04/22, A05/22, and A06/22 be adopted as presented. Could I get a mover and a seconder for that, please? Moved by Steve, seconded by Lisa. Any discussion on those minutes? Okay, all those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Our application.
I would just like to mention Mr. Gingrich is on the phone, so he can hear us, he can't see us, and I just wanted to let him know that I have moved him into the meeting, so at the appropriate time, he will be able to speak and answer questions if there are any. Okay,
thank you. So our application this evening is A07/22 for Richard Gingrich. The location of the subject property is described as Concession 11, North Part Lot 20, and is municipally known as 8884 Concession 11. The property is approximately 40 hectares in size, and the location of the property is shown on the map in your package. Purpose and effect of the application is to provide relief from the maximum floor area requirement for a proposed home industry, farm equipment repair shop on the subject property. The proposed variance will permit an increased floor area of 334.45 square meters, whereas the zoning bylaw permits a maximum floor area of 232.25 square meters. Other variances may be considered where deemed appropriate. How was notice given for this public meeting?
Notices were mailed to property owners within 60 meters of the subject property and to the applicable agencies, and signage was posted on the property on March 1st, 2022.
Great, thank you. I see you up on my screen, Matthew. Can you give us the update on your report, please?
For sure, will do. And good evening, council and members of the public. So thank you, and through you, Chair. Before you today is a minor variance application to provide relief from the maximum floor area for a proposed home industry, specifically a farm equipment repair shop. The applicant is proposing to construct a new purpose-built shop for a proposed home industry. So per section 6.14D of the zoning bylaw, the maximum size for a home industry is 2,500 square feet. And the applicants are proposing to construct a 3,600 square foot shop. With that said, planning staff have no concerns with the application as the request is minor, meets the intent of the official plan and zoning bylaw, and I welcome any questions.
Okay, thank you. Has any further correspondence been received in respect to this application?
No, there has been nothing further other than what's listed on the agenda.
Okay, any persons wishing to be notified of the decision must submit a written request to the Secretary Treasurer of the Committee of Adjustment. And with that being said, I'll open the floor for any questions or comments from the applicant and or the public. So Mr. Gingrich, if you can hear us, if you wanted to say anything, now would be an appropriate time.
Mr. Gingrich, I'm not sure if you press pound or star to get to go off mute. I'm not sure. Oh, there we go.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I can, yeah.
I said I don't think I have any questions or concerns. Don't think I have anything to say right now.
Okay. Thank you. Karen, do we have anyone from public registered to speak to this application?
We do not.
Okay, so I guess we'll move right to comments or questions from committee. Any committee members have any questions or comments?
I have none.
Okay. I just have one quick one for you, Matthew, and it's just it's not really directly related to this application. This application brings it to mind, so I'm going to ask it right now, and that is there a distinction between a home industry and an agriculturally related industry in the way our zoning bylaw deals with those respectively?
So are you referring potentially to a home industry and an on-farm diversified, similar?
Okay, yeah.
So an on-farm diversified is you'll need to go through a zone amendment, and really the only real distinction is really just the size and scale of the operation. So typically with the on-farm, from my experience, they're typically over 4,000 square feet and have, it ranges from the number of employees. Whereas the home industry, it's typically, just the people that live there. And I think you can have up to two employees that don't reside on the property. But other than that, the permitted uses are somewhat similar. So like I said, it really comes down to scale is the big thing.
So if this business wanted to grow in the future, it could potentially fall into a different category but have to come back through the process. Yes,
it's possible, yes.
Okay, thank you for that. Just wanted to make sure I understood how it all works. Any other questions from committee? Comments?
No.
Okay, we'll move right to decision then, and we'll read as follows. That the minor variance applied for in application A07/22 for the property described as concession 11 North Part Lot 20, geographic Township of Arthur, with a civic address of 8884, concession 11, to provide the following relief. Number one, that an increased maximum floor area of 334.45 meters squared be permitted for a proposed home industry, in this case, a farm equipment repair shop, whereas the bylaw allows 232.25 square meters. All those in favor? That's approved. So that's Yeah, there's nothing further on that, so we'll just move directly to adjournment of our Committee of Adjustment. And I have a recommendation that the Committee of Adjustment meeting of March 21st, 2022 be adjourned. Could I get a move in a seconder for that? Moved by Sherry, seconded by Lisa. All those in favor? That's carried. We're adjourned from our Committee of Adjustment meeting. I thought maybe for a minute there I was going to have trouble getting you guys to adjourn. So we'll move back into our regular meeting of council. Of course, in order to do that, we have a recommendation here that the Council of Corporation of the Township of Wellington North resume the March 21st, 2022 regular meeting of council at 7:15 p.m. Can I get a mover and a seconder for that? Moved by Steve, seconded by Dan. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. So next up, we have a deputation. Joel Officer from Officers Auto Care. Do you have Joel all set up, Karen?
Yep. Joel's been moved in as a panelist. He's got permission to speak. I'm not sure if he's got a camera, but I think he's on unmute, so we're good to go.
I'm here.
Okay, welcome, Joel. I'll turn it over to you.
Hi, everybody. Sorry, I'm just looking for a lot line adjustment on my property at 210 Industrial Drive to move the lot line from the train tracks forward to the shop, closer to the shop. I don't know how far we have to go yet. So really all I've got. I didn't realize I was going to have to speak tonight.
Okay. Okay. Thanks, Joel. Any questions from council for Joel?
Mayor Lennox.
Go ahead, Mike.
Is council aware of the location that Joel is speaking of, 210 Industrial? Okay, yeah, just wanted to make sure we could share screen and show the location if that was useful, but yeah, just wanted to double check.
Any questions from council? So I would just go ahead, Dan.
Well, I guess just what is the process? I guess if Joel's asking for a lot line adjustment, he's saying he wants to move the property line closer to his shop and turn the property back over to the municipality. I guess what is the next step, or what's the process, I guess?
Okay, that would be Mike. Are you able to help us with that? I mean, I'm thinking lot line adjustments normally is a county thing, but I'm not sure what role we have to play in that process.
Yeah, I see that Matthew's still here, so I might put him on the spot. And Darren has popped up as well as it relates to the lot line adjustment piece. Yeah, typically there's a formal process associated with that. Matthew, can you maybe just give us a quick overview on that?
Yeah, so I'm happy to run through the lot line adjustment policy, but I was actually in the township office today and chatting with Darren, and it came up, so I'll defer actually to Darren because.
Oh, thanks, Matt, and through you, Mayor Lennox. If this piece of land, if the township agrees, and then the piece of land is deeded to the township, the township's exempt from lot line adjustment and severance process. So it would be a matter of getting the survey prepared and then having the solicitor register that piece of land in the township's name without going through the public process.
And just further to that, and that's because we're the adjoining landowner?
No, it's because we're the municipality. So we could take title of that land separate on its own, or whenever we take title of that land, we could add it to our property that's adjacent to this.
Okay, thank you.
Just, Marilyn, just for clarification, any property that the municipality wants to take ownership of. You don't have to go through a severance. It's not just this specific property.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, Steve? You're muted, Steve. Steve, you're muted.
Sorry, you'd think after 2 years I'd be used to this. Holy Lord. No, I'm all for this, and it's nice to get part of the rail trail back into municipal land. And I might have missed this. How much land are we talking about, actually?
The railroad track, probably from the ditch at the back up and over the railroad track, roughly about, I'm going to say 30 to 40 feet wide, and then the whole length of the property.
Right. Okay. All right. Thanks, Joel.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Joel.
Any other questions for Joel? Okay. Thanks, Joel. Yeah, you've submitted a written request for this, I assume, as well.
Not yet. No, I will tomorrow morning, first thing. Actually, I did. I emailed Matt Aston a long time ago, about 5 months ago. And I just don't know where that went. Or there's Matt there. I think it was a couple months ago, but it was a lot line adjustment or an easement is what I emailed Matt. And he told me to come here to ask for the lot line adjustment instead of the easement.
Yeah, through you, Mayor Lennox, I received an email February 9th that asked for a lot line adjustment or an easement. And as part of the closed session tonight, there's a recommendation from staff related to that request. But certainly what Joel is saying is he wants a lot line adjustment. So the idea of the township owning the land.
Okay, thanks for that clarification. All right, any other questions with regard to this before we move on? Okay, I'm not seeing any. So again, thank you, Joel, and we'll have our deliberations and get back to you on that.
All right, thank you, everybody. Have a great night.
Thanks, Joel.
Okay, the next item we have, of course, is adoption of the minutes of council and public meeting from March 7th. And a recommendation here that the minutes of the regular meeting of council held on March 7th, 2022 be adopted as circulated. I said and public meeting. I spoke out of turn there. So often, it's so rare for us to have a council meeting without some sort of public meeting lately that I just assumed it was there. But when I think back, we didn't have one on March 7th either. So I apologize for that. But I need a mover and a seconder for it, if I could. Moved by Steve, seconded by Sherry. Any questions or concerns with those minutes? All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. I don't believe we have any business arising from previous meetings to deal with tonight. So we're on to items for consideration. So if you could go through those and pull out the ones we want to have some further discussion on, that'd be great. Steve, go ahead.
I guess I'll jump in. Wouldn't mind pulling 1B, and this is Arthur's 150th.
Okay.
3A, and that's with the purchase of the truck.
Okay.
And 6A and D, I think they're kind of tied a little bit together, and that's the excuse me, asphalt tender, and then the Queen Street repave and re, I guess you could call that. And then I just have a real quick question for 7B, just with the Wellington North Power quarterly news letter. Thank you.
Sherry, I saw you had your hand up. Did you have some others?
Yeah, Steve's got it covered. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Anybody else have others they'd like to pull out? Lisa, go ahead.
1C.
Okay. see you've turned your mic off, Lisa. Is that all you had?
Yeah, sorry. Yes.
No, that's okay. Just wanted to make sure I didn't miss it.
I'm just so used to this.
Dan, did you have any others you wanted to pull out?
No, I'm good. Mayor Lennox, it looks like everybody's got them covered.
Okay, I'll just do a quick recap, and then if there's any others, please speak up. So far we've got pulled out 1B, 1C, 3A, 6A, and 6D, and 7B. Anybody have any others? Okay, so we'll deal with everything else. And I have a recommendation that all items listed under items for consideration on the, I think it should read March 21st council agenda. Uh, 22 council agenda, with the exception of those items identified for separate discussion, be approved and the recommendations therein be adopted. Could I get a mover and a seconder for that, please? Moved by Sherry, seconded by Dan. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. So that brings us back to 1B. And the recommendation here is that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Wellington North receive the minutes of the Arthur 150 Committee March 2nd, 2022 and March 8th, 2022 meetings. Did I get a mover and a seconder for that, please? Moved by Steve, seconded by Lisa. And with that, we'll open the floor for discussion.
Thanks. I was just going to pull this and just ask Lisa how the planning committee, all the that's listed there is huge, and it looks like they're really moving fairly well. And wondering if you needed any extra help at all. I would be happy to join the committee if needed.
Sure. I think Faye's got a pretty good handle on things, but might be best to ask her. She likes to be in charge and delegate and, and keep everything kind of ticking along.
Okay, great.
But it looks like she's doing a wonderful job, I think, so far, and is planning everything out very, very well. It looks like it's going to be a ton of fun.
Yeah, even the piece in the Bisbal with Jeff McKee and Freddie Craig on the front was great, and looks like things are moving ahead, and it's going to be here quicker than we know. So, all right, thank you. That's kind of all I wanted to shed some light on it, and that was all I needed. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Steve. Any other questions in regard to this item? Comments? Okay, I'll call the motion then. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Move on to 1C. This is the Mount Forest BIA March 8th meeting. And the recommendation is that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Wellington North receive the minutes of the Mount Forest Business Improvement Association meeting held on March 8th, 2022. Could I get a mover and a seconder for that, please? Moved by Sherry, seconded by Dan. And we'll open the floor for questions or comments in regard to that. Sorry, discussion. Go ahead, Lisa.
I just had a question, and I don't really know who to ask. And maybe I'm reading something incorrectly. It's just 0.7. I was trying to figure out the math, how banners cost $600 per banner, 60% increase, $85 per banner was the original price. They can't be $600 a banner, right?
Gail, are you able to help with that?
Not really, but I'll promise to look into it and get back to Councillor Hearn. You're right, they can't cost $600. That might be the total cost, because I think they were ordering 6 or 7 of them, but I'll get back to you, Councillor Hearn, on that.
Okay, Councillor Burke, I saw you putting your hand up too. Did you have any information to share?
No, I was going to defer to Dale actually, because I haven't had a chance to catch up with Andrew, and I wasn't able to make that meeting. But the math doesn't work.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions or comments in regard to that, those minutes? Okay. Okay, I'll call a motion then. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Move on to 3A. This is in regard to the purchase of a pickup truck. And the recommendation reads as follows: that the Council of Corporation of the Township of Wellington North receive report CBO 2022-03, being a report on the award of the Township's 2022 Building Department pickup truck tender. And further, the council directs staff to increase the budget associated with the purchase of a pickup truck for the building department by an additional $5,745, being funded from the Building Permit Reserve Fund. And further, the council award Part A of RFT 2022-004 to Arthur Chrysler Dodge Jeep at a cost of $50,745 plus applicable taxes. Could I get a mover and a seconder for that, please? Moved by Sherry, seconded by Steve. And with that, we'll open for discussion. Steve, go ahead.
Thanks, Mayor, and through you, I just was wondering, just throughout this whole agenda, there's 3 pickup trucks that were tendered and everything, and I was just wondering if they were put in as a kind of a bigger buy, or were these just done separately? I would like to think that if we were buying 3 at one time, we might get a better price if we did it 3 for 1, or not 3 for 1, but a tender for all 3 trucks at once rather than separately. I just wanted some clarification on that. Thank you.
Okay, I see Matt's popped up first, and then I see Darren as well. So go ahead, Matt.
Yep, through you, Mayor Lennox. They were all part of the same tender. They come before you tonight as 2 separate reports, but they were all part of the same document that was released to the public to put pricing in. And the building department took the lead on that document.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I did see that they took the lead on that. I was just hoping that it was all encapsulated in one purchase tender. So perfect, thank you.
Okay, any other questions, comments? Go ahead, Sherry.
Yeah, my comment is sort of a general comment for all of the vehicles that we're purchasing this year. And I bring it up every time we purchase one. And I'm just wondering if there's been any consideration by staff to revisit the branding of the vehicles that we are purchasing. I don't know how many decals are left, and I'm not suggesting that we don't use those. But I'd like to see different branding on the vehicles and something that's more expansive that actually identifies that it's our vehicle as opposed to just the little decal on the door. And I don't know if anybody wants to answer that question, but I leave it open.
Okay, Matt, go ahead.
Yep, through you, Mayor Lennox, to Councillor Burke. I guess, yeah, the plan would be right now that it's a white pickup truck with a Wellington North logo on the door. I think that's consistent with the fleet management policy, the way it stands, but certainly if council wants something different, yeah, I think that would be okay. But right now the plan would just be to put a Wellington North logo on the door of a white pickup truck. That's kind of, I feel, the marching orders.
Okay, thanks, Matt.
Mike, did you something you wanted to add to that?
I would suggest if we want to look at the way that we're branding our vehicles, that perhaps a notice of motion would come forward and give staff direction from all of council to do a rebranding exercise. This has come up, but there's never been a consistent message that indicates that all of council is looking for a change as it relates to the branding of our vehicles. So if we're going to go down that road, we should probably do it through a notice of motion.
Thanks, Mike. I've already got that noted.
Any other questions or comments, Steve?
Just had one, just to follow up, Matt and Darren. I didn't see, and again, maybe I overlooked it. Was there any trade-in value on the trucks that we're replacing?
So Darren? Through you, Mr. Mayor. So for this truck in this report, it's an additional vehicle.
Right.
We had a shared vehicle or use of an 05 Ford pickup for the last couple of years. But I'm not sure if there's much trade-in value on that. Maybe Matt can speak to that.
Matt, go ahead.
Yep, through you, Mayor. So the water vehicle is a new vehicle. The 3/4 ton we're purchasing, it will replace a 1995 Ford that currently runs out of the Arthur shop, and there will be some salvage value, but not much.
Yep. Okay. No, I was just curious. Thank you.
Any other questions? Dan?
I just wanted to go back to Councillor Burke's comments in regards to the branding. So Sherry, you're suggesting that, I mean, right now we just put a logo on the door that says Wellington North, the round kind of logos. So you're and that's all that's on there. So you're suggesting like a phrase or something else. Is that what you're suggesting that goes on the trucks, rather than even just whether it's for the works department or the rec department or the building department, you'd like to see a phrase or a different type of logo, I guess, on all vehicles?
Yes, through you, Mayor Lennox. Yes, I mean, we know when we go through other municipalities or you look at county vehicles, they have their motto, they have their website maybe on the tailgate, something that identifies the vehicle as you're driving down the road. It's a perfect place to advertise our website so that people know where to go, whether they live in this community or not.
Yeah.
I think it would be a huge advantage. That's all.
Okay. No, that's good. Thank you.
Lisa, I saw you had your hand up.
Yeah, thank you. I just had a question about the, maybe it's pretty nitpicky, about the aluminum rims. Is there anything within our policies that specify types of rims? Like, do we have other trucks with aluminum rims out there? When you answer that, I'll get to my point.
I can maybe speak to that. Most of our trucks have aluminum rims. The trucks from about 10 years ago, a lot of them had steel rims, and they rusted pretty quickly and weren't lasting.
Okay, that makes sense. I was kind of worried about. It kind of dates me, but back into the mid-90s when I worked for the Ministry of Agriculture and Food, I had a Style and K car, and when I needed to have my tires replaced, my white walls, they turned to the inside because they didn't want to have the perception of anyone driving around with nicer stuff. So I was just kind of worried about perception, but if there is a longevity to it that we've seen and it's something that we already do, that makes sense to me. But I wasn't going to knock the truck for that. I just thought maybe they could swap them out, but yeah. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Okay, call the vote then. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. We'll move on to 6A. This is the asphalt program. Amended asphalt program, I guess I should say. The recommendation is as follows: that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Wellington North receive amended report Ops 2022-10, being a report on the award of the Township's 2022 asphalt program, and further that Council awards Part D, E, F, G, H, I, and provisional items of RFT 2022-001 to the Murray Group Limited at a project cost of $219,585. And further, the council direct staff to utilize any additional budget dollars from the asphalt program to fund the Queen Street East Connecting Link project. And further, the council authorized the Director of Operations or their designate to sign any necessary agreements with the successful bidders to execute this project. Could I get a mover and a seconder for that, please? Moved by Lisa, seconded by Steve. And with that, we'll start the discussion.
I had this poll, but I know there's a lot of people that want to chat about it, so I can relinquish the floor to whoever. I'm just getting to the page on my agenda right now, so someone else can jump in. I know we all probably want to have a chat about this, so.
Okay, who else would like to talk about this one? Matt, I'm going to give you the first crack at it.
Thank you, Mayor Lennox. When you look at the asphalt program for 2022 and Queen Street East, the recommendation that's before you, cuts the asphalt program from what we set out to accomplish. But what we're seeing is significant price increases over what we expected. So the asphalt program came in at 50% over. Queen Street East came in at 40% over. Queen Street East has provincial funding tied to it that is for sure limited as far as there's an upper limit. I think it's $1.42 million that the province is going to put in. So from a staff standpoint, we took the position that that provincial funding is pretty important. That's probably the priority. And what it resulted in is us altering what we set out to do from an asphalt program standpoint. And that's kind of the staff recommendations that are before council tonight.
Thanks, Matt. Any other questions, comments? Steve, go ahead.
Thanks for that, Matt. And yeah, I would agree. Queen Street is a long time coming, and yeah, we have to finish that while we have the provincial funding. The projects that might not get done this year, will they be flipped over to 2023 then?
Go ahead, Matt.
Yep, through you, Mayor Lennox. I would say those would be the asphalt projects from a rural standpoint that would be before council for the 2023 budget, yes. So it kind of pushes us back a year, but that would be kind of what staff's intent would be.
I know I don't have a crystal ball, but I can't imagine the prices of asphalt cement going down any further. Is it just like we're just deferring it just because the cost is too much just right now for all projects, and then we're just kind of halving it and then do the other half in 2023? Is that kind of the thinking, Matt? Or
go ahead, Matt.
Yep. Mayor, through you, Mayor Lennox. I think we're going to see Domville and the sidewalk program probably coming over budget if the first two projects that we close this year are an indication. What 2023 looks like as far as pricing is very, yeah, there's a lot of uncertainty about what that'll look like. Yeah, I do think if council, wanted to do both of these projects, probably there'd be a ability to do that as far as utilizing reserves and stuff that are available. But yeah, I think this is the recommendation that's put forward just to, ultimately as staff, we try to live within budget, but Domville and the sidewalk program, hopefully they come in within budget, but there's lots of risk that they won't. And I think we, around this table, we need to be aware that that's a possibility too, right? We might be talking about Domville coming in $500,000 over and the sidewalk program coming in $100,000 over. And where do those dollars come from is a challenge.
Okay, great, thank you.
Dan, go ahead.
So just looking at the report then, I guess, Matt, so the recommendation that we're being presented with tonight is to remove part A, B, and C and continue on with the rest. So we can either that's the staff recommendation. So we can either accept that, or we could do a hybrid of that, or we could do them. We could do them all if we were so inclined. But it would take some creative number crunching, I guess, to make that all work. You know, I'm okay with the recommendation. I just fear that, you know, if this is a sign of things to come, then things are just going to continually go up. And I know pushing it off to another year is probably the best solution at this point in time. But it just, the way things look, it just looks like it's going to be more and more expensive as we move forward. And I guess that's what, you know, that's what we need to do is make that decision. But I'm okay with the report. I know that we need to try to live within our means, and it's a large overage. So it's, you know, it's something we need to think about. And we all know that Queen Street is the priority, has been the priority. And because of the way it's tied into the provincial funding, there's no way that we can put that off any longer. But good report, good numbers to give us an idea of what we're looking at.
Sherry, go ahead.
Yeah, so I support the recommendation here by Matt and his team. I think we really need to be prepared for the Queen Street project. And I would rather err on the side of caution as we start to get these projects in. Yes, we're going to get some of the paving projects and we'll defer some of them, but then that's a discussion that we can budget for 2023, knowing that the prices are going to probably be inflated from what we've seen in previous years. But Queens, in my opinion, we really need to focus on that Queen Street project and have the adequate dollars to do that project this year.
Any other questions, comments? I would just add to I would support the recommendation as presented. I think it's also good for us to look back a little bit over the past few years. We've been doing an amazing job with staff support of keeping our paved roads in good order. You go to many municipalities and I see much more deterioration on paved roads than we've been experiencing. We've been parking a lot of dollars into keeping our pavement renewed. And I think it has given us an opportunity actually to maybe defer it for a year or so and still not let our roads get into serious disrepair. So I think all the investment and time that's been invested in the past number of years is going to help us weather this storm of uncertainty around project pricing, so that we can focus on those most important items. And we haven't forgotten we're suggesting backing off on these pavement projects. We're not forgetting them. We're just delaying them for a little bit. And hopefully a year from now, we can come back at it with more certainty. Unfortunately, the world we live in is very uncertain right now. And I'm hopeful that will pass. But I think this is the right course of action for this time. Any other questions or comments? Okay, I'll call the motion then. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. And we'll move on to item D. I just forget which number that is. 6D, I guess it is. And we have a recommendation here. Before I read the recommendation, though, I think you all have it in front of you. There's a couple of options being proposed here, and I'd really like to kind of narrow that down a little bit before I read the recommendation and get a mover and a seconder for it. Doesn't mean we can't change course as we go, but I'll first start with you, Matt. From a staff perspective, do you have a preference? Is option 1 always the staff preferred option?
Yeah, through you, Mayor Lennox. I think it's actually option 2 based on the conversation. So option 2 would allocate the asphalt program budget to this project, and then it would allow staff some flexibility to use some reserve funds. But in reality, the reserve funds we're talking about under $10,000. So I think the way I read it, option 2 at this point would be the preferred option. Okay. So no, not option 1. Sorry, Mayor Lennox.
That's okay. I was just trying to have a little fun along the way.
Yeah.
Is council okay with proceeding to discussion with option 2? Okay, so I'll read the recommendation then, and we'll insert option 2 into that. The recommendation is that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Wellington North receive report Ops 2022-14, being a report on the award of the Queen Street East Connecting Link project. And further, the council award the request for tender to Cox Construction at a cost of $3,632,365.46 plus applicable taxes. And further, the council directs staff to increase the budget associated with this project by $1,072,983.09. And further, the council approve utilization of the remaining asphalt program budget and capital infrastructure reinvestment reserve funds, Waterworks Reserve Fund, and unallocated 2022 Ontario Community Infrastructure Funds to fund the gap between approved budget and actual costs. And further, the council authorized the mayor and clerk to sign any necessary agreements with Cox Construction or the Ministry of Transportation to execute this project. Could I get a mover and a seconder for that, please? Moved by Sherry, seconded by Dan. And let's have some discussion on this one. Who'd like to lead us off? Go ahead, Dan.
Just, you know, I mean, again, it's a big number. It's more than what we anticipated, but it's a job that needs to be done, and we all know that. So, and I guess the other unfortunate thing is that, you know, with only one bid received, it makes it a little more, you know, makes it a little more difficult, I guess, to compare. But anyway, we need to move forward with this. There's absolutely no way we cannot.
Other discussion?
I would.
Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, I would echo what Dan says. I know that number is a bit shocking. It's like a sticker price that, you know, we're kind of forces our hand to pay for it. But I mean, that it does need to get done. And unfortunately, this is the cost of business these days. And like Matt said earlier, it's a little uncertain, and we don't know what even next year is going to bring. So I think we got to get this done and get it on, and get on with it. So.
Any other questions or comments? Sherry, go ahead.
Yeah, I too agree with the comments that have been made. I thank Matt and his team for, you know, kind of giving us some alternatives, but I just think that might just put us further behind if we look at those other options. So I'm in support of just moving forward. Yeah, it's a large price tag, but man, it needs to be done.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay, call the motion then. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. And we'll move to 7B. With regard to Wellington North Power quarterly newsletter. The recommendation is that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Wellington North receive the Wellington North Power Inc. quarterly newsletter, quarter 4, October 1st to December 31st, 2021. Can I get a mover and a seconder for that, please? Moved by Steve, seconded by Dan. And go ahead, Steve. I think you had a question.
Yeah, I just had a quick one. It's nice to see that they've had a really good year. And I just wanted to ask Mike, when is the general meeting for WNP? If you could remind me, and then maybe remind the public as well, just so we can see all the good work that they're doing and why they're sitting where they're sitting, which is a good spot to be.
I would if I could remember. Give me a second here. Maybe one of the other members of the board remember the date. I did have
Bear or Dan.
I actually don't think we've formally set the date, but it's usually the end of May, the last Tuesday in May.
Okay.
Good memory.
I'm not sure if there's any discussion going on as to whether it'll be in person or not. So
that was my next question. So yeah. Okay. So,
yeah, we have a meeting, board meeting next week. I'm sure we'll be discussing some of that. So we'll keep you posted on that, because of course we're going to need some volunteers to act on behalf of the township as the shareholder at that meeting.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or comments in regard to that item? Okay, I'll call a motion then. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. And that brings us, I think that's the end of our items for discussion. So that brings us to any notice of motion this evening. Sherry, go ahead.
Yeah, so I'd like to bring forward for the next meeting a review of the fleet management policy and also the branding of our fleet.
Okay. So you can send the wording or work with the clerk department in terms of wording, and that'll appear on our next agenda where we can discuss and or give direction to staff on at that point.
Thank you.
Okay. Karen?
Are you looking through you, Mayor Lennox, Councillor Burke, are you looking for a committee to review the policy?
Well, I think that it's been a while since we've had the fleet management, we've put together the fleet management policy. So I think that it might be a good idea to review that. And if it takes a couple meetings for us to bring together some staff, and I also sat on that committee. I don't have to be that person, but I just think that perhaps it's time to review that. I think it's been a few years since we've done that. I want to say 6, 7 maybe.
Okay,
but I'm
so
not sure.
We'll work on the wording. It'll be a motion next meeting to review the fleet management policy. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other notice of motion this evening? Okay, then we'll move on to community group meeting program report. Anybody have anything they'd like to report on there? I'm not seeing too many volunteers. I guess we're holding it all back till we get going out in public a whole lot more and having a whole lot more of these community meetings. Lisa, go ahead.
I can try to report on a few of them, although there wasn't a lot. Wasn't a huge amount. I did attend the Mount Forest Chamber meeting, the Arthur Chamber, and the Arthur BIA. We do have a cultural roundtable meeting this week, and that's a fairly big deal. I think we have some new people that are interested in the cultural roundtable attending, and hopefully there'll be more. and hopefully Dale has ordered enough food. The Mount Forest Chamber, lots of talk about the fireworks festival, of course. They're working on the Mount Forest Guide. So they're trying to keep that going, and looking forward to Easter with an Easter egg hunt. The Arthur Chamber and the Arthur BIA, they do have some good leads on new administrator, but nothing yet. So that's the big thing for them. And the Arthur BIA, we just kind of went through our work plan for 2022. And again, a lot of talk about the Arthur 150. That's it.
Thanks, Lisa. Anybody else have anything they'd like to report on this evening? Did I see your hand, Steve?
Yeah, yep. We just had our monthly Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority meeting last Thursday. Nothing really too crazy to report there. So.
Okay. Anything else? Okay. I don't see any routine sort of bylaws this month, so our next item is a closed meeting session. But before we do that, I thought I'd just go over the meetings, announcements, etc. So the open house for the review the pool design for the is at the Mount Forest Sports Complex, Lower Leisure Hall on Wednesday from 5:30 to 7 p.m. And be interesting to get some feedback on the proposed design there, and see some folks interested in helping us get to the goal of having a new pool in Mount Forest. The Cultural Roundtable, of course, is Thursday, as Councillor Hearn mentioned, and they're looking for recruiting new members. It'll be held at the Arthur Community Centre Lower Hall. The next Recreation, Parks and Leisure Committee meeting will be Tuesday, April 5th, 4 p.m. Economic Development 65th Annual EDCO Conference is April 5th to 8th. Next regular council meeting is April 11th at 2 p.m. The Growth, Housing and Development Information Session is at the Arthur Community Centre Lower Hall on Wednesday, April 13th from 6 to 7:30. And our second council meeting in April is April 25th. And we have the volunteer appreciation event planned the Arthur Community Centre this year at Thursday, May 5th from 5 to 7 p.m. With that, we'll move into our closed session. So a recommendation here that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Wellington North go into a meeting at 8:02 p.m. that is closed to the public under subsection 239(2) of the Municipal Act 2001, specifically for item K, a position plan, procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to any negotiation carried on or to be carried on by or on behalf of municipality or local board. And B, personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees. And we'll deal with the report Ops 2022-001 being a report on the request by owner at 210 Industrial Drive for an easement on a portion of their property in favor of the township for drainage and or trail rights, and a verbal report from the Chief Administrative Officer on personnel matters. Also deal with a review of the closed session minutes from February 22nd. And with that said, could I get a mover and a seconder for that, please? Moved by Councillor Burke, seconded by Councillor Hearn. All those in favor? We are in closed session. Karen, do you need a minute to?
Yeah, I gotta kick everybody out and lock the meeting down and stop the recording. So.